Hello, and welcome to the Bluegrass Sports Show, or
The BS show. We are two fat guys, especially right now, talking crap.
no doubt, we just got done eating pizza.
And I'm stuffed.
Look at my little haircut. See it? Okay, so
Look at the my no hair on my head. You don't see it.
I'm Carl,
I'm Perry.
the animal, and today we are coming at you with our picks. We have set up a baseball lineup, and we're going pitcher through right fielder with a DH as well. So we're going to be drafting 10 players. But for the point of this draft, we can pick the same players. But we're just setting up, like me personally, I set up my team based off what I'd already picked. And I started with catcher and went down.
That's all I did.
So if I got down, you will notice it later. I'll bring it up on some of them. I only picked this player because of the way the rest of my team's set up. Versus this is maybe not the best player at the position in my eyes or anything. So, anything you'd like to add about your team before we start?
I'm wearing my tennis baseball shirt in honor of a baseball show. My team is similar to his. It may not be the all-time greatest at a position, but it's who I would choose over anybody else to ever play the position to play that spot for me. This would be the team I would take in the battle against any other team.
Right. And for me, it's more along the lines of setting up a team to play well together versus not necessarily taking who I think's the best at each position. So, yeah, it is a little bit different. But we're talking about all-time greats here, so it's not like you're making a bad pick.
We start at pitcher or catcher?
I say we start at pitcher.
Okay.
Because we are, pitcher's number one, so we can start pitcher and last player is DH. Does that work?
Okay.
All right, that works. So, hopefully this is a good show for you guys, though. You want to start?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I'm going to go with my starting pitcher, the hardest throwing pitcher of all time.
Okay.
Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan.
Now, you were going to laugh at my pick, but go ahead.
League leader as far as being a record holder, most strikeouts in MLB history, most no-hitters in MLB history. But with baseball players, whenever you're comparing all-time greats, it's not like basketball and quarterbacks in football to where you can compare titles. How much titles shouldn't matter whenever you're talking about all-time greats. Because
I don't think it does in football, but
it does its quarterback position.
I disagree, but go ahead.
We'll talk about that later. But with baseball,
there's too many players.
Exactly.
Too many
One
positions,
player. Now, the right player, an overwhelmingly talented player, can be a difference maker if the team's already set and ready to go.
Right.
But it's like
it's not going to turn around a franchise.
It's like Junior going to the Reds in the early 2000s. He didn't do nothing to the Reds.
No.
Now, he was still fine.
Right.
But it's so much more than just one player. And the same thing for a starting pitcher, especially with a starting pitcher, because generally they're pitching once in 5 days.
Now, back in his day.
No, they may have pitched more often. But all-time leader in strikeouts, all-time leader. And, of course, it was no hitters, yes. No, not perfect game, no hitters.
Yeah.
He was pitching into his 40s. He had the funniest brawl of all time where he just pounded Robin Ventura in the head. I'm going with Nolan Ryan as my starting pitcher.
And I'm going Randy Johnson.
I can understand it.
I'm going Randy Johnson. And like I said, though, this is maybe not – he's not my number one starting pitcher ever, but I just really like Randy Johnson. And let's face it, the guy could reach halfway to home plates from the pitchers.
And he demolished the pitching.
He was tough.
Did you ever see whenever he killed the pitching?
I didn't see that.
You've never seen this?
I've never seen it.
Where he's throwing a pitch, and as soon as the ball goes to reach home plate, a bird flies in front of it, and it hits it, and you just feathers, and all you see is feathers.
That's awesome.
It's the most fantastic moment in baseball history.
Oh, my gosh. That's crazy.
It's up there with George W. Bush throwing up the first pitch in the 2001 World Series at Yankee Stadium.
That's cool as crap.
It means that much to the game of baseball.
Well, I'd never seen that.
Hank Aaron breaking Babe Ruth's record with the fans running out on the field with him while he's running bases. Pete Rose charging the plate.
It's lower, though.
Derek Jeter's relay to home.
Hitting a bird.
Derek Jeter's relay to home. George Bush's first pitch. And then Randy Johnson killing the bird. That's your debating order for moments in baseball. But no one tell you difference.
But I love Randy Johnson. I think he's a really good player.
I can understand that. I'm
So-
not
and
going to debate you.
Oh, I'm surprised. I expected a lot of turmoil over that.
No,
Because there are pitchers that are better.
I love Randy
statistically.
Johnson.
But I do. I love Randy Johnson too. So now I guess we're moving on to catcher.
Who's your catcher?
My catcher is Johnny Bench.
Agreed. Go ahead.
Wow, very nice. Yay. First agreement. So Johnny Bench. Now I don't know the stats on Johnny Bench, which I'm assuming you probably have some.
Two-time MVP,
But he's-
two-time World Series champion, 14-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glove winner, but I don't know much.
But I've just watched the guy play. Was my thing about it, and he was because I used to love going back and watching those Reds teams, and
Big Red Machine.
he was amazing. I mean, he was tough at the catcher position.
Power anchor
There's
of
not
the lineup.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of catchers out there
For the,
that you can even debate are better.
for the longest time, the all-time leader in home runs for a
He's-
catcher.
He was tough, man. He was tough. So I'm glad we agreed on that one, though. That's pretty
You're
nice.
not going to agree with my first baseman.
Okay.
This is the only player I have on my list that is still playing the game today. I've got Albert Pujols.
I almost put Albert Pujols in.
Albert Pujols,
And that's funny.
I have a cheat sheet that I'm looking at, of course, just
Yeah.
to give you more in-depth stats of why I'm placing him. He's a two-time World Series champion. He's a three-time MVP. He only won 2 Gold Gloves, but he's got 613 home runs. That is good enough for 7th all-time.
He's tough, dude. He's tough. He was debatable. I almost selected him at number 1. Or at my first baseman, sorry.
I'm a Reds fan. Naturally, I dislike, which makes me think, well, I didn't wear my red shirt for this. But anyways, I'm a Reds fan. Naturally dislike St. Louis Cardinals. But you got to give props to Pujols.
Yeah, he's tough, man. He's good. I really like Pujols. Mine's Lou Gehrig.
I can understand.
Yeah, there's when we're talking. Anybody who's watching this video
Mhm.
knows who Lou Gehrig is. In a sense, I mean, we do have some younger players or people, but Lou Gehrig was fantastic. If you haven't watched him, definitely go back and watch his game. And we're talking about power.
You're blocking half of Shaq's number.
I'm so sorry.
There you go. Much better.
So, but Lou Gehrig was tough, and he big power hitter too. Like Pujols had a ton of power, and defensively though, those two guys are outstanding as well at the first base position. And like I said, Pujols was my number 2 option,
Mhm.
and I almost took him. And then I'm the type though that forgets names when I'm trying to think of them. And then I thought of Lou Gehrig, and I was like, no, that's my number. That's him. But Pujols was my number 2, so I can easily see that one.
Who you got at second base?
Mine at second base, I've got Jackie Robinson.
I don't.
I like Jackie Robinson. I really do like
I can
Jackie
understand
Robinson.
from the historic
Right.
precedent of having Jackie here, but
And he's tough. You can't knock on
he's
Jackie.
really good. But
Yeah. He's done everything. He's not a guy that's only like you've got some guys that are mainly power. He's not one of those guys. He's all around completely solid.
I just feel like my second baseman's better.
All right, so who's yours?
Joe Morgan,
Joe Morgan. Very
two-time
nice.
MVP,
Very nice.
two-time World Series champion. He was, in his day, he was a 5-time Gold Glove winner, and he was a 10-time All-Star.
Right.
He was a base-stealing
See,
machine for the Big Red
The
Machine.
Gold Glove winners, the Gold Glove awards, those really stand out to me because I love defense.
Yes.
You know this. So.
Absolutely. Now, with Joe Morgan, going back to that Big Red Machine team,
Mhm.
right there's 2 guys alone between Bench and Morgan
Right.
that they had in the prime of that run that were both multiple-time MVPs.
Right.
And we're not even bringing up the impact that a Tony Perez had or a Dave Concepcion. Maybe Tony Perez played first base. Maybe one of us had Concepcion. We'll get to that here in a moment. You had King Griffey Sr. in the outfield. You had Cesar
Right.
Geronimo in center field. The Reds were loaded.
They
man.
were tough.
They
man.
were
They
loaded.
were tough. Yeah, that team was fantastic. And really, at least for me, the tail end of that is when I became a Reds fan. You know what I mean? And then I went back and rewatched that team in its prime,
Mhm.
running through. Was that for you or?
My father's a Reds fan. So
Oh, okay.
it's the same thing with me loving Kentucky basketball,
Right.
loving Dallas Cowboy football, loving
Exactly.
Cincinnati Red baseball, and LA Laker basketball.
Mm.
I took after my father. I'm a massive Cincinnati
See,
Reds
my
fan.
dad, basketball is the only real sport my dad watched.
Mhm.
That and boxing.
Mhm.
So my Reds was just me watching it.
Now, my third baseman, this is where some people are going to be like, you're going with this guy as far as historical precedent. I've got Chipper Jones.
Me too. Yeah. That's awesome.
Now, Chipper never won a Gold Glove.
Did he not?
No, never.
Oh
won a
my
Gold
God!
Glove.
But he was fantastic. Still.
But he was a batting champion.
Yeah.
Of course, he had 468 career home runs, 8-time All-Star. He was an
tough.
MVP, and he was the best player on arguably one of the most dominant baseball teams as far as tenure in modern baseball history.
Yeah, you always knew the Braves were going to be there.
Exactly.
I mean, in that time frame.
Chipper Jones, in my opinion, the best switch hitting power hitter of all time.
Man, he was fantastic.
He was great. He was great with power from the left and great with average from the right. I love Chipper Jones. My sister's favorite all-time player.
Yes, that's right. That's actually, I had never watched Chipper Jones till I started going over to your house with you and Carrie. Then I started watching Chipper Jones, and Chipper was the man. He really was. But I do apologize for the yelling and the slapping. I was really surprised that you agreed with me on that pick. But
I love Chipper.
Chipper was the man. So I guess now we're moving on to shortstop. That was crazy. Shortstop, mine's Derek Jeter.
So I've got.
Okay.
I got Derek Jeter.
Wow. So there's a lot of agreements on these.
Surprising.
That's crazy. So at short, I mean, when we were talking Jeter, here's another guy that can do everything. He wasn't a whole lot of power though. But defensively, few were better. At the shortstop position, few were better.
He had 5 Gold Gloves.
He was tough.
14-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champion, and over 3,400 hits, 3,465. Yes, 3,465 career hits for the captain of the New York Yankees, and he was captain of the New York Yankees for well over a decade.
He was tough, and that's one thing you talk about when we talk about. Like we talked about in past videos, Kareem's just legacy of dominance over his whole 20-year career. Jeter the same way. I mean, he dominated his entire career, and he played a long time. And he was the man.
An unbelievably clutch player.
He was the man
in
that time frame, too.
He's got some of the most memorable visions as far as baseball goes. The relay to where he cuts it off and throws backhanded to the plate.
Right.
There's an image to where he goes crashing into the crowd chasing after a foul ball. And he hauls it in, but you just see him crash into the crowd. Derek Jeter, he has a special place in my heart. I'm not a Yankees fan,
I hate
but
the Yankees.
you have to respect Derek Jeter, and respect is exactly
everything
is attributed to him.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah, that's tough.
With left field, this is where we get a little bit controversial, and it's controversial because of how this guy's career ended. Let me read these stats off to you: 762 home runs, 14-time All-Star.
I'm disappointed.
7-time MVP, 8 Gold Gloves, and hit 73 home runs in a season.
Yeah, I know.
You tell me a left fielder you would take before you would take Barry Bonds.
But the only reason I did not take Barry Bonds is because of
the steroid controversy.
Mm-hmm.
Before he was ever accused of being on steroids, Barry Bonds was the best player in baseball.
But
even before his head grew the size of my chest.
Right. You can see a vast difference, though.
It's hard to deny it. I completely understand. And his stats greatly jumped.
Right.
Whenever he got to like 39, 40, 41 years old. I completely understand that the likelihood that he was on steroids is there. I'm not sure if he ever proved that he was or not, because I know he said he wasn't. But
everybody does. Mark McGwire.
With him, a 7-time MVP speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't debate that.
But see, I think he was on steroids way before then too.
Oh, it's possible.
Because I don't remember the exact seasons, but there was one season where he went from being a smaller guy to now he's blown up.
Mm-hmm.
And then his home runs jumped up 30 home runs the next season. And that made it look, when I went back and looked at stats, I was like, his stats may have been fabricated. Now, if you take the years before that jump, he's still phenomenal. A phenomenal player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not arguing that, not one bit. He was phenomenal. He was fantastic. But his stats did take a jump. So that's the only reason. If it wasn't for the steroids, I don't put him in there.
Understood.
Or I put him in there, but with the steroids, he's not in there.
Okay. Who's your left?
So my left field's Pete Rose. And that's got a lot of controversy too with the gambling. But to me, gambling does not affect how good you were. Right? Gambling's only your mental fortitude or whatever you want to say. So it don't affect how good you were as a player. And wasn't he gambling on himself?
No. Whenever he says that he never bet on Reds games. Now, whether or not he did or not, who knows? But he did this as a manager. He didn't do it as a player.
Right.
He got in trouble for gambling whenever he was the Reds manager.
Right. But still, even so, if you're gambling on yourself, and I don't think Pete Rose is the type of guy to bet for the other team. He's going to bet for him, and he's going to do everything in his power to win that game.
Exactly.
And that's the thing I was making. If anything, if he bet on himself, then Pete Rose is that type of guy that it's going to drive him to do better.
Exactly.
But he was phenomenal. I mean, as a player, like I said, I don't know the numbers. I don't know the amount of Gold Gloves and stuff. I've just watched them play, and I know how good they were. So I can't tell you, like Perry can with the stats, I can't tell you all these Gold Gloves and stuff. But if you go back and watch Pete Rose, and once again, he was part of that Johnny Bench team, that Beast Reds team, he was fantastic as well on that team.
Let's talk about Junior.
So at center field, we both got Ken Griffey Jr. And the number one thing, always, when I talk about Ken Griffey Jr. to anybody, especially people now, and even my daughter could attest to this, is I talk about his swing. And he had literally the most beautiful swing in all of baseball. And just perfect. When he would hit a home run, and he knew it, when he hit it, that he would, every time it would touch the ground, he would just drop the bat and go on. And it looked fluent as all get out. But when I showed my daughter, this has been a little bit, but how to hit a baseball, and my swing is copied right after Ken Griffey Jr.'s. But that's how I showed her. I said, you got to, get that shoulder moving, get that little movement, and blast it.
The only player who was better during the 90s than Griffey was Bonds. And it wasn't by a great deal. Ken Griffey Jr. has been voted in many different polls, many different lists, as the most feared hitter of the 90s. Now, I know you want to look at him as a member of the Reds. Member of the Reds, but his prime was with the Mariners in the 90s.
It was
630 home runs. That's good for 6 all time.
Right.
And of course, Pujols was going to eventually catch him.
Shut up.
But whenever Junior retired, even with his injuries, he was still ahead of pace of Aaron and Bonds. He was still on pace, had he played as long as Bonds did, to pass Bonds. But
without the injuries, his stats are crazy.
Without the injuries, Junior hits 800 home runs, maybe 900.
And he's a monster. I mean, he was tough.
And Junior, of course, just going back to my list of stats, you're 13-time All-Star. He's a 10-time Gold Glove winner.
10-time Gold Glove. That's what I was going to say.
MVP.
The defense, though, was there.
He played in an era in the American League for the bulk with McGwire.
Yeah.
And McGwire, the Athletics were generally just better.
Right.
I mean, the Mariners were still really good, but he played with some really good players in the American League. So
I agree.
Junior, from 1989 to 1999, from start to finish with the Mariners, he hit 399 home runs in a decade.
Right. And I challenge you, if you disagree with our pick, to go watch Junior swing and then watch somebody else's and say it's better.
Just watch him play outfield.
I just want you to argue his swing. Just one stat. Argue that. Outfield, I mean, there's a lot of great outfielders, but he is still debatably better than them.
The Spider-Man catch, where he hurt his wrist, or his wrist or his ankle, one of the two. But his Spider-Man catch against the wall, he was just ridiculous to watch. There was no such thing as him being out of range of the ball.
Right, no. He could catch it.
I love Junior.
Junior's the man.
My favorite of all time.
Yes.
Now, my right fielder, Hammer and Hank Aaron.
And here is the big moment I told you all about before.
I don't understand how he can take anybody over Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron, let me just read you some numbers here. 755 home runs, a 20-time All-Star.
Right, I know.
He won a title, he won an MVP, and he won 3 Gold Gloves.
By no means am I saying that my player is better than Hank Aaron.
755 home runs.
By no means.
And this was before, allegedly, steroids.
Right.
Give me Hammer and Hank. The longevity of his career, he was a stud top to bottom.
And what I went with was just defense and hitting. Like, literally hits, not power.
If you say Larry Walker, I'm going to slap you.
No. Mine's Ichiro Suzuki.
I thought very hard about Ichiro. I'm not going to hate on him because if not for Hank, and to be completely honest with you, whenever I made my list, I went completely blank at second base, and I went completely blank at right field. I'm like, oh my god, I thought of Joe Morgan, but I'm like, is there anybody else that ever played second base that's better than Joe? And just went completely blank, and I couldn't name a right fielder outside of Ichiro. Whenever I was just thinking, I was like, oh my god, who plays right field? Historical. And whenever I typed it in, the first person to pop up is Hank Aaron, and I was like, I can't put Ichiro over Hank.
Exactly. That's why I made the point to tell you guys I'm not saying that these are my favorite of the position.
I love Ichiro.
But Ichiro is tough. And you were talking about Derek Jeter clutch. Ichiro's that clutch.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that clutch. But he's not a big home run hitter. He's not at all. But he's a ton of hits and defense, speed. I mean, he's fantastic. And he didn't come into the league till he's 27 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't come into the league till he was 27, and he was playing fantastic at age 42.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah.
He's still in the league.
Is he really? I didn't know he was still in there. Dang, sorry, guys. I didn't know he was still in there.
I think he's on the Marlins roster.
Shoot, God. But
I think.
He's fantastic. I mean, he is.
Who's your DH?
No, you tell me yours.
No, it's your turn.
All right, fine. My DH is the big hurt.
Frank Thomas.
Frank Thomas. I loved him at DH. And Ortiz was one I debated on picking here.
Big Poppy.
But I like Frank Thomas so much better. I do. And his swing, though, his power, he didn't have to get that barrel of the bat on the ball. Not for him. That's how he got the nickname the Big Hurt. He just had that pure strength that he would knock the ball out and it'd hit the small part of the baseball.
And you want to talk about Auburn royalty? He, Charles Barkley, and Bo Jackson were all at Auburn at the same time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they all played together.
Mm-hmm.
But all three of those guys are absolutely fantastic.
Bo and Frank played baseball together.
So, yeah, Bo Jackson, who was phenomenal. Two different sports. A beast. So, who is your DA?
What's the purpose of the designated hitter?
Just to get hits. I mean, essentially, I just like power. That's what I say. That's why I got Ichiro.
I understand.
And Jeter as well. It gets a lot of hits. Because I've got a lot of power.
Why not, if your sole purpose is to get hits from a position?
Make it a hitter? Yeah.
I've got Pete Rose at designated hitter.
Oh!
I went with Charlie Hustle with no other responsibility other than to hit for the pitcher.
Yep, I like that.
You put the greatest hitter of all time, 42-56. 4,256 hits.
But in my defense, he was in my roster.
I understand. But he's three-time World Series champ. He was a one-time MVP, so 5 MVPs that we're accounting right now from, of course, the Big Red Machine era.
Mm-hmm.
And he was also a 2-time Gold Glove winner. So I could have put him in the field and been solid with it. But I like my choice in the left field of Bonds. I still want Pete in my lineup. Pete, you go in for the
that's what I'm saying. If it wasn't for the
power
steroids, if it wasn't for the steroids, then I would have definitely went Bonds, and then I would have had to throw Pete in there.
Still got to hit the ball.
But
steroids might make the ball go farther.
Yeah,
but you've still got to hit the ball.
Right. I mean, I get that, and that's what I was saying. When you looked, now his averages didn't increase. It was just literally his home runs, RBIs, things of that nature. His average didn't increase. So he was fantastic, though. But if it wasn't for the steroids, he'd been in on my list.
Absolutely.
So I guess that wraps this one up. But that was fun. I really like that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. You may have some debate on what you would go with each position, but if you liked it, go ahead, hit that like button and that subscribe button. We are having fun doing this, so we want to keep doing it. You got anything you want to add?
Jason Miracle, Ken Griffey Jr. was better than Willie Mays.
Willie Mays. Willie Mays is one that I could easily see you putting in there.
Not over Junior.
No, not for us. Heck no,
Junior stayed healthy. He's the greatest of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And he's still pretty high.
He's still pretty high anyway, yeah. So, but thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.